Madera Companies, welcome back to Touch Base. This is our fourth season of getting to do these podcasts. We've been around the block doing a bunch of different things, but this season is going to be super fun and super interesting. I'm excited to do this. I think there's going to be a lot of things that we get to learn and talk about. And before I kind of tell everybody what the subject is, I kind of want to introduce our two guests, which really you're just let's hear from the bosses as far as that goes. So we've got Dave Gillis, the CEO, here in the middle. We've got Dave Marcinkowski, one of our founding partners. And Dave, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you just give us a quick bio, a little bit about yourself? That way, for those who hadn't met you or just kind of seen you from afar, maybe learn a little bit more about you.
Sure. Well, Dave Marcinkowski, like Josh said, one of the founding partners of Madera Companies, these companies that we've built. I've been in the apartment industry now for 30 years, which is really kind of hard to fathom. Worked myself up from being a bookkeeper at a family-run organization to being blessed to actually get to be a part of this incredible team and say that I had something to do with it getting started. I have 3 boys and a lovely wife. Been married for 21 years, and there's my home family, then there's my work family, and you guys are a huge part of it. And I'm excited to be able to share a little bit about this topic we're going to talk about today.
Yeah. Dave G. How about you?
Yeah, Dave Gillis, CEO, and blessed to be here, part of the Madera Companies, involved in several of the Madera Companies. Started my professional career in public accounting. I think I've referred to that as my prison sentence years of my life. Did that for 10 years. Really learned a lot, really allowed me to see a bunch of different industries. Jumped from there over to telecom in the early years of high-speed data being rolled out. When I started, it was 1.5 megabits down was considered high-speed data because it wasn't a dial-up.
Yeah.
Evolved all the way through that 17 years to launching gig services in the markets that we served. And then from there, met Dave through some mutual acquaintances and jumped over to real estate, which ironically, I had a real estate degree specialty when I came out of college. So kind of came full circle back into a topic or an industry that always had interested me. So I've now been at Madera 4.5 years, much more versed in the real estate world, still have a ways to go, but surrounded by a number of good people here in Lubbock, but probably more importantly out in our communities that are helping teach me up.
Yeah, and that's true. And talk about being surrounded by good people. I think that's like an easy introduction into what we're going to be talking about, right? We are going to spend this season kind of chatting through and talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, what that means for the Madera Companies. We're going to bring in some folks from the outside to give us some help, to teach us some things, to talk about how we can better do this. Now, what's interesting about the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we'll refer to it as DEI every now and then just to kind of keep the ball rolling. But as we talk about that, it's interesting because everybody's got different connotations. Everybody seems to come because they come with such diverse backgrounds and experiences. Everybody's got different thoughts on what that actually is. And so here as we kind of jump into this, I think it'd be really good to hear from you guys. If we could just talk a little bit, very round table, like we're having coffee together, just talk about like, what does that mean to you when you say this, so we can start to develop a shared language. So I don't necessarily care who goes first, but what is diversity? Let's just talk with that word specifically. What is diversity to you?
I think for me, diversity first and foremost is you want folks or people in your organization that come from different backgrounds and different experiences, because as we go through solving our complex problems, the more perspectives that you have, the better answer you're going to come out with. Truly, if you're listening to all of your constituents appropriately, right? That everyone has a seat at the table, voices are heard, and you really take that feedback and synthesize it down, the right thing to do comes to the surface pretty fast. And it's really fun to watch that process happen for me. And so to me, that's diversity. It's not just what you look like, it's where you come from, what your experiences are, both life, work, family, all of those things matter because that's who we're serving.
Yeah, and I appreciate you making that connection because when you only come from one background or everybody looks the same, it's really hard, especially for our companies, because we're in so many metropolitan markets, that it would be really hard for us to serve diverse markets because we all look the same. But I think seeking something beyond that is huge. What about you, Dave?
Well, I agree with what you guys both said. Appreciate that very much, Dave, the thought process. So I'm going to give a little bit of a different slant to it. I think one thing, in order to be okay with diversity, you have to believe in your heart we're better together than we are as individuals.
Yeah.
And when we're individuals and we're hiring people like ourselves, whatever that means, you, I think, are handicapped in terms of your ability to be successful. We've seen this over and over again in our organization. We pull people from very diverse backgrounds. It's like, well, wait a minute, that person's not in real estate. How would they possibly bring any value to this conversation? The value they bring isn't the value that we already have in real estate. It's what they don't know. Yeah. It's the things that they challenge that are outside of that. So kind of going along those lines, let's talk about our core values a little bit. So Christ is our first core value. I think there's a lot of people who are like, well, you're not diverse. You have to be a Christian in order to be somebody who can be successful in your company. And if that's what you believe, then you're missing the point as it relates to Christ. Christ was somebody who touched everyone. He didn't touch just some diverse. In fact, he touched some of the groups of people just thought you shouldn't talk to at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's what portrays to me our companies and what we're trying to do. Community, like that means being a part of something bigger than yourself. It means bringing together a whole group of people from diverse backgrounds together to achieve something. That's who we are as an organization. And constant never-ending improvement. I think what you're going to hear from us today, Josh, and we talked about a little beforehand, is we're always trying to be better today than we were yesterday, better tomorrow than we are today. And as it relates to diversity, have we been where we should be? Probably not. Not by design. Really, probably you could say it just sort of happened that way. Especially, we'll talk about this, I know, at the corporate level. But you know what? We're getting better, and we're going to get better tomorrow. We're going to get better the next day, and I have no doubt in time we're going to be the light on the hill as it comes to this topic.
Yeah, I like that. Let's move to this next one, right, as we get in, because we've got a good understanding here of what diversity is. Let's talk equity for just a second, because equity is one of those ones that oftentimes is thrown around in financial terminology and kind of in that world. But when it comes to equity as far as the workplace for our employees and in the types of ways we want to serve customers, what is equity to you guys?
I think you could define that in a number of different ways. For me, equity is that are you, from a pay standpoint, from a participation standpoint, are you treated equally to another person that may be of a different background?
Yeah, I like that too, because I think you adding the different background is an important piece of that, because when we talk equity, I think it's important to always recognize we don't start in the same spot. We don't all come with the same experiences, and so it's contextualized for how we take care of our employees and how we take care of each other. What are you thinking when you hear the word equity?
The first thing that comes to mind is the golden rule: treat others as you'd want to be treated. And when I think about it that way, others is everybody. So I want to be able. I don't want to sit there and say I'm going to treat so and so better or differently than another person who may be in the same exact job, because we're all on the same team. If I do that, now all of a sudden I'm creating this environment where people aren't treated equally and they don't feel like they're a part of the team.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure, and for me, it's very important for everybody in our organization to feel like they're a part of our culture and what we're trying to do. And to do that, you need to treat people equally.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Dave?
Well, I always come back to, is it equally or is it fairly?
Okay.
To me, it's more fairly.
Okay, flush that out for us.
So if you're a teammate that's going above and beyond all the time, then we're probably going to treat you better than someone that maybe is below average. So I think we have to be careful on how we use terms and it's not everyone is treated exactly the same. I think you should be treated fairly for what you're bringing to the table.
Well, can I jump in there too?
Please, go for it.
It's a relationship between us and our employees. And a relationship brings accountability, and I'm not, Josh, if you and Dave are working together and Josh, you're achieving more than Dave, do I have to treat you both equally because that's what equal means? And what I think you're saying is no. We're going to reward talent. We're going to not talent. We're going to reward effort. We're going to reward success because we believe very much that that's an important part of growth. And growth to me fits into that Kenai core value.
Yeah.
To unpack that even a little bit further, sometimes more success means we've had failures. So sometimes you want to reward a failure because someone took a chance, tried something, may not have worked out, but we learned something as an organization that then put us on the right path. So I think it really gets back to effort and trying things and being a good teammate as well, participating in things.
Yeah, and I think as we continue this journey over the next several podcasts or whatever, as we talk about equity as well, I think one of the big pieces that comes into play here is also like career paths, like just making certain that it's not just that everybody has a shot to apply for whatever the next job is. It's that our supervisors and our managers are helping people where they are continue to grow as people and grow in their jobs so that they have an equal shot at the next job because we have equitably treated them well and contextualized their journey for them. So let's grab that last one there with inclusion. We've talked about people from different backgrounds. I've heard, I've already heard it said one time, having a seat at the table. Let's flesh this out a little deeper here. Like, what does inclusion mean for us within our companies?
To me, it actually means you are listening, you are inclusive in decisions being made at all levels. And hopefully what folks see when I go out, particularly on property, which is the most kind of in the face for me, is I'm sitting with everyone and I want to know where they came from. I want to know their experiences, and then I want to know what's hitting them at their job today, and how can we better serve our residents, and really how can we better serve them so that they can better serve our residents. There's always a nugget or two out of each visit that you can glean from how do we get better. And we just have to be intentional about making sure that we are inclusive before we make a decision of our team that's around us, on getting all the facts and getting the different perspectives. Because we can be diverse as we want to be in the makeup of our employees, but if we're not listening or not have a mechanism to hear feedback, we're not going to make any different decisions.
Yeah, I want to come back to something you just said there, but because I think you said something really important about that. But we'll come back to that in a second. I want to hear from you, Dave, first. Like, when you hear inclusion and we want to promote that within our companies, what does that mean for you?
Well, it's funny. Dave's doing a great job hitting on the definitions of all three. I'm glad he's going first, and so it gives me an opportunity to kind of say absolutely everything that Dave said. What my take on this whole thing. I'm going to go back to the relationship side of things.
Okay.
If you're listening to us, what you should hear is we want every voice in our organization to be heard. It doesn't matter what your position is. It doesn't matter where you came from. If you've got something that you want to share, we want to hear it. On the flip side, this isn't an anonymous suggestion box where I can just write down my complaint and stick it in a box and we need to go fix it. That's not what a relationship is. A relationship is one, having the courage to talk to us. Two, do it in a way where we're trying to come out of this with something that makes us better as an organization, better as individuals within that organization. It doesn't have to be monumental. We don't have to move a mountain with that. It can be something as basic, something super simple. But the intent is we all want something better for this organization. Because I can assure you, if there's something that you think, one, let's say it is something that we're not doing that you think we should be doing better. Most likely there's other people who share your view. So you having the courage to share that with us is important. Yeah. On the flip side, if it's a new idea and you're sitting over there going, I'm sure they've heard that a million times before, you might be wrong. And I'd rather hear it a million times than never hear it. Yeah. And so hopefully if you listen to this, you hear that's what our culture is.
Yeah.
Or sometimes as leaders, we hear something, but it doesn't click at that particular time. So to hear it again, maybe that's just presented slightly different and like, oh, I've heard that before. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How many times is that?
A lot. Yeah. So I echo that, Dave. Don't hesitate to bring it up, even if you think it's something that we should already know. We may not have connected a dot that's really obvious for you sitting in your position.
Well, and I want to come back to, I think that is so good because I think it's important for people to get to share their ideas and for people to be able to bring their voice to the table when it comes to making our companies better. Come back to that relationship piece for a second, because how does belonging fit in this with you? You know, it's like relational, like people just finding a place to belong, and know I'm included not just because of expertise. I'm included because I'm me, and this is who they are. Talk about that for a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, you know, I grew up sports related. You know, played college basketball, and you know, belonging to a team was a big part of my development. And I look at Madeira and our companies and what we're trying to do, not as 3 or 4 different teams that are all kind of just sort of working together. We're one big team who just happen. We don't all do the same thing. We're in different verticals. We're doing different things.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God, exactly. But belonging to me means that you feel like, you know, I'm not just somebody who works for Madeira. I'm somebody that is a part of what Madeira is trying to achieve. I'm a part, doesn't matter if you're a partner or you're anybody else within our organization. We're all on the same team. There isn't an elite team. There isn't a B. There's not an A, B, and C team in our organization. There's one team. And we hope we create an environment where you feel like you're a part of that.
Yeah. I want to come back to something you said, Dave, just a minute ago. So I think this is huge. You alluded to and inferred that you can have diversity and not have inclusion. That you can have one or two of these things, and it doesn't necessarily mean you get all three. And so there's this important, like, just because you have a bunch of diverse people and diverse perspectives or people in the room, it doesn't mean that there's an equitable opportunity for them. It doesn't mean that there's inclusion. And so let's talk about this for just a second. You know, why is it so important that the three of these things come together and work together?
Well, I think that's where the conversion of all those things really brings out the best outcomes for all involved. It's where people start to feel really comfortable. And, you know, I've said it before in other podcasts, I think as a leader, one of your most important things that you can help anyone in your organization with, and that's confidence. Because as soon as someone is confident, they're going to contribute more.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a sports guy too, and, you know, I wasn't as talented as Dave to get to play college ball, but I got to play high school basketball, and it's fun to watch people figure out their roles that they're really good at, but then interject at areas where they're trying to get better and trying to learn a little bit more. And if we're in an environment that allows that sort of, hey, I'm going to put my toe in the water over here, as long as they're not getting smacked back, they're going to put a whole foot in next time, and then maybe a leg. And then pretty soon they might say, hey, that's what I want to go do. But in all cases, when you get someone that's giving a different perspective to a problem, you're going to find a better solution. I do think that throughout our organization, we have great people that if we have teammates, that's how they're going to be treated. I do think we need to continue to put more focus on making sure we have the diverse teammates on the team. So that we're reaching out to non-traditional ways of attracting talent into our organization. That we're truly not making a hire because it's the easy hire. Oh, they kind of think like I do, so it'll be easier to train that person and just move on. Versus stepping back and saying, okay, I really, these are my needs. Here's kind of who's on my team. What perspective or talent am I missing? And go look for that. Because I think you do have to be intentional about it. And, you know, our at the leadership level, we're trying to be very intentional about not that somebody, first of all, they have to fit the culture in general, be the type of person that would be comfortable in our culture. But then what can they bring to our culture that we may be either missing completely or just light on that representation in our culture?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things there that I think are important that you said. And we talked about this even off camera, right? It's not lost on us that there are 3 white guys sitting at a table talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Like, that's not lost on us. We see that, and we want to bring as many voices to the table. And that's the whole point of this, is to get better, to bring more voices to the table, to learn. I want to talk about...
Can I dive in there real quick? Because I think this is a good segue. So I've been here since 2004. And since 2004, Christ has been our lead core value. We had other core values. We've narrowed it down to 3 in the recent years. In the 18 years that I've been here, I've never had anybody call me up and go, "Hey, Dave, I'm struggling with this Christ core value," like outside of the company kind of thing. In fact, I can't even think of a time where anybody's ever questioned me. It's been the opposite. People have been like, kudos for you to have the courage to share that as a value. But what I have had people hit me up with a lot is, "Hey, Dave, I was looking at your website and I looked at your core team. I see 4 middle-aged white guys as partners, and I see a whole lot of middle-aged white guys as your key staff members." Now with Quacks, that's changed some, and I think you'll start to see that change, as all across all of our organizations. But I think it's important for our staff to know that that's a real issue and a real question. And when I got on the podcast, we started talking about this the last time, I said, this is something we have to get better at. I didn't say that just because. I mean, it's true. We do, and we always have to get better at that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I appreciate you saying that, because I think that's where, and I would want all of our teammates to hear this, right? To do DEI well, you have to understand, going back to your point just a few minutes ago, it is a journey. Like this, we have aspirations of wanting to do this better. And part of that is going back to even what you, like I said, what you said a second ago too, about the networking and how we build relationships and going beyond our normal pools of sourcing, that we are looking beyond what we normally have done. And we're going to go to new markets, and we're going to find people in different places. And in the future podcast, we're going to talk about with Rodney specifically about how recruiting and hiring and all those things are starting to kind of make their way into a more DEI strategic perspective.